Welcome, Raider Nation, inside Week 4 edition of the pregame presented by Twitch. I'm Vince Sapienza, coming from Raiders HQ, as always, alongside the 8-year NFL vet, former Raiders running back, Rashad Jennings. Rashad, we got a lot to get into it, so let's just jump right into it. I don't want to spend too much time on what happened in Week 3. I think we need to flush that. I know the players can't, but we can flush that very quickly. Talk to me about what the messaging is as a player from your coaches, from your fellow teammates, on a week after things didn't go well in just about every facet of the game on the road for the Raiders. What is the messaging this week as you refresh, renew, and get ready to come home?
Yeah, it's the basics. You got to get back to the basics. You got to remind people of the basics. And I know for sure that's what Pete Carroll is reminding everybody. Protect the football, tackle, be efficient in the run game, special teams, all of these things that we know, the keys to victory. Like that. The beautiful thing about football, the recipes don't change that much. It's similar meals every single week. And so, you just got to keep packing and stacking the ingredients that you need to make it a successful meal out there. It's not rocket science. Now, how do you make this happen? How do you get more first downs, gains, and all this and that? Well, first, you just got to get in the minds of your athletes. And once you get in the minds of the players, clear out the rough. We obviously want to be 3-0 right now. That's not what it is. We got a lot of football ahead of us, and you got to keep that energy. You got to keep that morale. So I'm pretty certain that along with the staff as well with Pete Carroll, they're just reminding the guys why they're here, what we're trying to accomplish, and everything's in front of us.
Talk to me about the intangibles, right? Like you guys are the 1% of the 1%. You're used to winning at a young age, coming up, and then you make it to the NFL where everybody's good, right? So what is the balance? And again, in your experience that, again, I know it's kind of an inexact science. Every team is different. Players are different. But the balance between having the film shoved down your throat of all the things that went wrong, as well as highlighting the things that you were able to do well to carry over into the next week.
In that essence, and I'm reluctant to use the word balance, but in this particular case, I can let it ride.
Okay.
So there is a little balance where you need, the correction, but also you need the production. You need to show where you did things proper. And so I think we're critical. We're athletes. We're professional athletes, right? And the top of the top. And so we really key in on our mistakes more than our praises. That's what professionals do. So I think in the film room, in a locker room, looking across the aisle from each other, and how you practice. When you lose consecutively in the NFL, players don't want to lose, folks. I know the fans don't want to see their team lose. Coaches, owner, nobody wants to see it happen. So what happens in the practice is we go to practice and we know we messed up. The players know what they did wrong. Mm-hmm. Not only do we know, now it's been exposed on film what we've done wrong. And so we can't allow the same mistakes to happen in practice. So practice elevates more. Players hold each other accountable more. It's a better preparation for the week. And so I think we'll see a really strong bounce back this coming week.
I don't want to keep highlighting the negativity, but everybody talks about how the tape doesn't lie, right? So those film rooms, players always say, those are tough days after games like we saw in Week 3. What makes it so tough? Is it just the accountability, being in a running back room and sitting there saying, man, I just flat out missed that block in pass pro, or I just flat out missed that hole that could have been a first down that ended up being a turnover on downs, whatever the situation may be. What was the toughest part for you?
Well, the accountability in a peer setting is what's more, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And I understand that, right? It's not just it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people seeing it and agreeing all at the same time, because there is a difference if I fumble the football and I have to see that film with just me and my coach or just me and my family. But when I have to see that film with me and the whole entire team, it feels completely different being exposed with my peers versus just me and one person. So when you see it on the big tape, you see it on the screen. And actually, folks, just so you know, when you see it on television, it's not the same. It feels different for an athlete to see his mistakes when he's in the film room with the entire team. because that's who we working with. And I've had those along the way, and you gotta take it right on the chin. Boom. That's okay. That's not what I do. I messed up. Okay, cool. I gotta progress and get better. And I think that's what you're gonna see. And in leadership, you need strong, accountable leaders to say, "Hey, look, we screwed up. Okay, let's get it going." And that doesn't need to come from the coach. That needs to come from some of the players.
Well, Rashad, appreciate the honesty. I was gonna say that's never happened to you, but you said you've had to take a couple lumps along the way, and honesty is probably a big talking point this week as the Raiders get ready for the Chicago Bears at Allegiant Stadium. We're gonna get into all the reasons why the Raiders could win this game, should win this win, need to win this game, but we're gonna start, and it's gonna feel like a broken record, but we're gonna start at the offensive line. And what has not been working, Jackson Powers-Johnson expected to go back in at that right guard spot. They always say time on task. And the offensive line of all position groups need as much time together before it gets right, before it looks right. Through 3 weeks, I know still small sample size, but we're getting to that quarter mark of the NFL season. Have you seen enough of this offensive line that gives you confidence it will get right?
Yes, I do. And the reason why is because I've seen spurts. It's not consistent. There are spurts where I see hat on hat, and I see a perfect defense versus a perfect offense, and it's hat on hat. The Raiders win. There's a difference when you're just pre-aligned snap or great scheme by the offensive coordinator, anticipating what the third down was going to be by the defensive coordinator, putting a left hat on a right head, and it's just boom, it just opens. That's different, folks. I've seen tape where it's mano y mano. There's a perfect defense, a perfect offense, and we've taken them out of their wheel and pushed the ball. So, but I have seen a lot of miscues. A guard will pull left, or a running back will go right when supposed to get the hand off this way, or a tight end zig when he needed his zag, like all of these things. So I'm very confident. I'm actually enthused by the style of mistakes, not mistakes, the style, because they're correctable. They're not just being dominated styles. Well, this person's just way better than you across the ball every time. It's mental errors, and I think those can be cleaned up.
All right, Rashad. So, I don't know as a former player how you feel about the phrase a get right game, right? Because everybody's good, no matter the situation. Every team is good. But I'm going to throw some numbers out at you. And on paper, it has the feel of a get-right game. So I want to see how this sits on you. When you look at the Chicago Bears and their defensive ranks, their passing defense is 27th. Their run defense is 26th, giving up 139 yards per game. Their total defense is 29th, and their scoring defense is 28th. If there was ever a get-right game for the Raiders at this point of the season, again, a month in, at home, same type of preparation week for both teams, which would be the first time for Raiders and their opponent, would you classify this as a get-right game for the Silver and Black?
Yeah, these are one of the games that something must change. It's a good boxing match, or it's a really good overtime in a situation of the playoffs where somebody has to win. Mm-hmm. In this case, I'm sure by statistics, the Bears are saying the same thing. Here's a good chance for us to get right. If we're going to get our defense going, here's a good opportunity against the Raiders. The Raiders could be saying the same exact thing. If we're going to get it going, here's a good week. Now, that's what we say as the fandom. Yeah. Obviously, it's a profession. We're trying to get right every week. We don't care who's in front of us, who we playing. Forget that. But I do statistically, I understand. But the Bears are no slumps. I mean, Ben Johnson's got those guys on the offensive side cued in, and you obviously the Raiders' defense is going to be have a lot to work with. There's a lot of weapons over there on that side of the football, and I think their defense can get after you too. So it'll be a well-rounded game. Again, expected to try to get physical in the trenches, but don't be surprised if there's a little bit more opportunity to put the ball in playmakers' hands in a non-traditional way.
That sounds a lot like another day for Trey Tucker. Coming off a career week, 8 catches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns. Definitely feels like that momentum could and should, and hopefully for the Raider Nation will carry at Allegiant Stadium. Let's jump to the other side of the line of scrimmage, or the other side of the field, I should say, and the Chicago Bears offense and the Raiders defense. So the Raiders give up 174 yards on the ground in the first half to the Commanders. Not great, obviously, but what we have consistently seen from this Raiders unit and Patrick Graham is the halftime adjustments. The Raiders defense has been better in the second half of each game they have played. I think the overall total was 201 rushing yards allowed in that second half, or in total for the game. So the tackling got fixed after what was a rough first half. How important is it to start on time? I know it's always important, but especially against a year 2 quarterback in Caleb Williams, who is coming off of one of his better games in the NFL last week against Dallas.
Yeah, Caleb, you want to keep pressure on him. He has shown to have a temperament that his skin can be gotten under. And so you want to kind of wrinkle in very quickly with him, because he's also a hot hand too. He's special. He was first overall for a reason. He's different. He can sling the ball. He can run. He can distribute. And so once he builds his confidence, he plays on that and he relaxes. I think he's a different kind of a guy. But a couple of wrinkles, blitzes, get in his face, and I think he can go in the tank. And we've seen that. And so I think the Raiders are going to get after him very quickly. I think, you're going to have to trust some of your DBs, get some pressure as quick as you can, trust one-on-one tackles if they do make a slant and, to tackle for 4 yards. But it's the fact that you need some reps at your blitzes to figure out where are the holes. And so expect the Raiders to get after Caleb Williams in that offensive line very early.
Rashad, Caleb's an interesting guy, because some of his most special plays come when he's on the run, right? When he's those off-schedule type plays is when he does a lot of the cool things that we've seen in the highlights that we saw at USC, even his short time in the NFL. However, against Dallas, he wasn't pressured at all, and he was kind of just picking the Cowboys apart. So you said you want to get under the skin. How do you get under the skin of a quarterback? I know you lined up alongside the quarterbacks, but if it were you, how are you getting under his skin? Is it just play, or is it some little things here and there within the game?
You do within the game. I mean, obviously, the nature of the game, guys draw off a little bit, this and that. But my way of getting under the skin of a quarterback, especially a younger quarterback, is I'm playing inside leverage with my man-to-mans, and I'm forcing him to have a pretty precision throw in order to get the ball in the receiver's hands, because I'm not going to give you a quick out of a slant. I want to make you throw the ball in a perfect spot. And I'm blitzing you. I'm making zero coverage. I'm trusting my defense to make the tackle, even if it is a lob in the air. And that gets under the skin, because if you give somebody just comfort, when you have a visitor come over your house, you don't want the guest bedroom to be but so comfortable, because they're going to stay there too long. You got to make people uncomfortable to get them out of there. And so it's the same thing in football, folks. You have to make him uncomfortable. If he's relaxed, before you know it, they're at your house and having you cooking for them, you cleaning. Before you know it, you paying the rent. They paying the rent to you. So you have to put pressure on him and see what he does. See what he does and adjust from that. But that's how I would attack.
You don't get many visitors over at the house, do you, Rashad?
Now, I get plenty of visitors. They just don't stay long. That's how we keep it. And I'll let the dog come in and be like, hey, this dog around too long.
Yeah, that sounded like a little personal story. Back to the defense. Patrick Graham was talking about some of the things that jumped out on the tape with the Chicago Bears, the physicality of the offensive line, but the overall speed of the offense. And so, Rome Odunze has scored in every game he's played. He's obviously kind of one of the breakout players in the National Football League right now. Caillou Blue Kelly, former teammate of Bishop Gorman here in Vegas, has a tall task ahead of him. Eric Stokes, who the Raiders are very happy with, tall task for him. But Darian Porter is a guy that did see some reps late in the game in week 3. And when Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham were asked about the rookie corner, what did he show that might give you some optimism, hope that he can earn some more snaps? And both of them said the exact same thing. They were happy he could tackle. They were happy to see him make a tackle. And I think a lot of us were like, well, of course he could. Of course he can make a tackle. But as I thought about it, that's building trust, right? He's showing them that they can trust him in those situations, not just to cover, but to come up and make the tackles, be physical. Did I read that correctly, or how do you hear that?
Yeah, that's how I hear it. In the game, the way we're playing the game now, and it's different, and it kind of Chip Kelly kind of alluded to how the game has changed over time and why defenses are ahead of the curve and offensively got to play catch up in the first half. Well, one of the things that's going on in today's NFL game is the perimeter runs. And there used to be a time where a cornerback could probably hide in the NFL and really never have to come up and be physical and tackle. Well, that's one of the reasons why I personally believe there are coaches out there, and Pete Carroll being one, that likes these taller, long-range, physical type of corners, because you get on the perimeter much quicker. The offensive coordinators have figured out how to do the tosses, how to figure out the screens, how to figure out the zones, counters, all these things to get on the edges and make your corners have to tackle. If they don't, it's going to be a very, very long day. And so when you got a guy like him that doesn't mind coming up, stick his nose in, he's inside and out to the tackle, nothing gets outside of him, and he plays with progression. It makes the football field kind of tighter when you have a corner that wants to play football physically.
So that is the task that the Raiders will have on them, of a physical game, no doubt, 125 at Allegiant Stadium. Raiders, Bears. Okay. Now, Chicago, there's a radio station that had a promotion, this all expense included type deal. There's going to be a lot of Bears fans coming to Las Vegas this weekend. Does that ever enter the mind of players in terms of an opposing crowd coming in to your home? Because especially for a franchise like the Raiders, like that didn't happen in Oakland, right? It's a very real thing that happens here in Vegas for a number of reasons we don't need to get into, but it's a very real reason. How much does that get into the players' minds, if at all, and how would that affect them on Sunday?
It can. It depends on your makeup and personality. Where you're from, how'd you watch the game, what's important to you, and how much history you have. But as a player, though, when you're away or you're home or you're battling against, these top-notch teams, or, I'd say for me, when I played against one of my favorite teams growing up, and I was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I looked across the field, and I grew up Arizona Cardinal fan. I don't know how. I'm from Virginia. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know if it was Jake the Snake Plumber or what, but for some reason, I cheered for the Arizona Cardinals when I was 8 years old. So I'm in the NFL. I'm playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look across, and there's Larry Fitzgerald wearing in the 11, wearing the Arizona Cardinals uniform, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, that was my first time where I had this like childish, I can't believe this is happening. I'm supposed to be playing Madden right now to be here. This is crazy. I'm living this, and it does. It makes you have to get hit real quick to put you back into reality. Mm-hmm. That's just a human experience, but you welcome that. You welcome that pressure. You welcome the family. You welcome the boos, the cheers, and everything. And as you transition from a NFL player to a pro player, all those elements start to shift, and it's silenced.
You just brought up something that made me think of Baron Davis's Talk of the Nation. He had Max Crosby on about a week or so, and Max told a story that I think we've heard, but we didn't hear it in this way. If you haven't, I suggest you go up on Raiders.com or the YouTube page, check this out. But Max was talking about his rookie year. He was playing 15 to 20 snaps a game, and he just wasn't getting in a rhythm, and he was questioning himself. He didn't know if he could do it in the NFL. And then it took an injury for him to get more snaps. And that week 4, and specifically it was week 4 against the Indianapolis Colts, I believe he said, that he had just the game of his life, and that was the moment he knew, and that's the moment that he stopped being necessarily wide-eyed and questioning himself. So for you, and again, this goes for a lot of players because it's a pretty young team, right? Like, this is still a pretty young roster, even though there's veterans littered throughout. You have the Ashton Genties. It's a relatively young offensive line, the receiver room, etc. What was it for you when you look back at the moment where you weren't wide-eyed anymore, where you didn't have those necessary moments of being like, man, that's the Arizona Cardinals. I was just playing Madden, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think my settle in the league wasn't a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a carry. It wasn't a special team play. What it was 3rd down and 8. And we're in a shotgun. David Garage, a quarterback. I'm with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And there was a pass pro. I saw the blitz happening and developing and the defense moving on strings before the ball was snapped. I stepped up, I made the block, punished them actually. And David Garrard threw the ball. We made 15 yards. It was a first down. That right there was my moment where I relaxed. Why? Because I'm now seeing the game before it happens. So I'm not caught off guard anymore. I'm not just out here hoping I do well. I'm actually controlling what's happening now. And that was my moment where, okay, now I can settle in and just play ball. I'm seeing the game. And that's one of the things that kind of, when we talk about Agenti and, how special he is, and kind of with that ceiling fan is moving really fast until you catch that one blade and you can slow it down. While the white is on the skin of a football, right? In college, so you can see it to slow the football down. Like all of these things develop you and help you slow the game down. And, I tell people there's no difference between college and pro. Besides, it's not the speed of 4.4 in college, it's 4.4 in the NFL. The only difference is it's faster of a game. And I think that's what happens to a young running back where the holes aren't wide open, you got all this pressure, is you got to just slow that ceiling fan down for him. And that's getting with your coach. That's breaking down film. That's anticipating and seeing all of the chess moves before it's made. That's when you get, again, you're trying to transition an NFL player to a pro. And it'll happen. It'll happen.
How many games would you say that game was for you?
That game, that was week 5. Week 5.
Okay.
Week 5, I relaxed after that.
And so it's different for everybody, right? You can't set your clock to when it'll happen or what moment it'll happen, but you just hope it happens sooner rather than later for the Raiders. So as we kind of put a bow on this and look ahead to Sunday, Raiders, Bears, what are we going to be talking about next week? Because we will officially be at the quarter mark, 4 games in. We will have a very large sample size of what the Raiders are. What do you think we will be talking about this time next week?
Tied up. Raiders tied up with the rest of football ahead. This first quarter had some ebbs and flows, seen some flashes, seen some good things, seen some bad things, seen some correctable things, but all of them are explainable. They have not done anything that you are setting back saying this is unfixable. And you've seen some players and some action and some names and personnel where you're like, yo, we can run some tables. So it's both, man. And I want to be able to next week sit here, getting a victory, a good hard-fought victory, playing physical, doing the things right, and saying that's how it's supposed to look. That is going to be a teach tape, because I've been on a couple teams, folks, where we've played bad early and we had a playoff run when I was with the Giants. And we started off, coach said, hey, from now on, we're 0-0. Let's keep our record from today. So if the Raiders come in and they're 2-2, and as a team, the organization, you know what? Scrap it. We're 0-0. This is game 1. And the team keeps their own record, right? Like it's a fresh start. And you need to do that from time to time.
I think a lot of Raider Nation agrees with you. Everything you just said, I think they agree. They want to be talking about Ashton Jeanty breaking out, having the game, right? I think what a sigh of relief that would be, not just for the Jeanty fans, but the offensive line means they've gotten it going. That means the crux of what the Raiders wanted to do before the season started is starting to see that progress and get going. I don't know if it's a get right game, but the Raiders want to get right. Do they need to get right? I think you need to get right every game, just like our own Rashad Jennings says. This has been the pregame presented by Twitch. I'm Vince Sapienza. For the former Raiders running back, we appreciate you for joining us. You can find all our episodes on Raiders.com, the Raiders YouTube page, or wherever you find your podcast. Thanks so much. Enjoy the game. Raiders-Bears, Allegiant Stadium, Sunday, 1:25. We will talk to you next week.